success stories told by the people who live them.
We're going to have some guests on this show that everybody knows, and we're going to have guests on this show that nobody knows yet.
One by one, Nick Hyder is adding hits to the hit streak.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hit Streak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder, and in the Hit Lab with me today, I've got an extra special treat for you. I say that all the time, and this time it rings true yet again. I've got a fellow Nashvilleian, local businessman, a father, a husband, a mortgage banker for 21 years. I've got the one and only Shawn Kaplan hanging out with me today. Shawn, thanks for being here, man.
I really appreciate it, Nick. Wow. Great place. I'm honored to be here. I can't believe I haven't come over and seen this, and I'm very grateful to be on this show with you today.
That's right, man. Well, we got a lot to talk about. I know you were somebody that when we first started doing this well over a year ago, you were on my short list of people that I wanted to get, man. And so I'm really excited to get. Absolutely, dude.
Thank you.
And let me just say before we get too far into this, folks, you got to check him out on his socials. It's at the Shawn Kaplan. He's doing a phenomenal job with his social media. Just absolutely killing it. My wife and I love the videos, dude.
And it's like Kaplan University.
That's right.
So you look it up. I'd love to connect with folks. That's the biggest thing. It's just so cool is the relationships. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that, Nick, you know?
That's right. Well, one of the reasons that I wanted you here for so long is not because of, you've been killing it for a long time, super successful, but I love the relationship that you have at home with your family, and you've built your business like the right way. There's a right and a wrong way to do everything, and I think you'd have to search high and far if you found one at all that would say that you didn't do right by them when you did business with them.
There might be somebody out there that something happened, but I always tell my clients, you won't find somebody in 21 years going around town that I made them go to closing with more than I ever promised them, because I pay the difference if I screw up.
That's right.
My mama taught me that.
That's right. So, and man, like, look, you can Google Jesus Christ himself, and there's going to be somebody putting some bad reviews out there, right? So,
right.
Well, man, it's incredible. 21 years. Check this out, folks. He's been able to assist over 10,000 families in home financing for more than $1 billion of funded real estate transactions, and he's remained a top producer. That's really special to my wife and I, right? So when I tell you guys he's been successful, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I'm still in the trenches day to day. Still meet with my clients, talk to my clients. I'm not in an ivory tower, and I love it. That's what I love the most.
Bam. That's right. So, all right. Let's talk a little bit about, like, you didn't just, people don't just fall into this, right? So your story is phenomenal. And I hope it's as good. Well, I've made him tell me some of it pre-show, and I had to say, stop. We got to get that first time on the air, right? So talk to me a little bit. You're not from here, right? You grew up in the Northeast.
I grew up in the Northeast, born in New York. When I was 6 years, I'd lived in Albany, Rensselaer. When I was 6 months old, we had some tragedy. My dad passed away.
Okay.
And we ended up moving back to Vermont. My mom has 9 brothers and sisters. So
wow.
We went back up there. I spent majority of my childhood until my mom met my stepdad with my grandmother. Yeah.
Wow.
And so she raised 9 children. She basically raised me too. I was just telling someone yesterday, I was like, what did I get that somebody else didn't get? And I've thought about this, and it occurred to me. I was driving down the road the other day, and I said, your mother would bring you in there every time she had to go work, because my mom worked multiple jobs to survive. And I'd sit in that velvet chair with my grandmother and watch Price is Right, because I remember she would say, Bob Barker's so handsome.
That's right.
And she would sit there and say her rosary, because she went to Roman Catholic Church, even though my dad was Jewish.
Okay.
And over here, what she would do is she would pat my head and the whole time just say, you're so handsome. You can do anything you want to do, Shawn. You're so smart. And that was pretty much probably the only person other than my mom I had in my life for a long time that was telling me that.
Right.
And I think that made a difference, Nick.
So we've talked about that before here. My grandmother did very similar things. She used to say he's going to grow up and be the president of the United States. I don't know if I heard it. I don't know if it translated into like belief as I got mature. Some would say I'm still not mature, but as I matured into an adult, it took me a while to build a belief system. You know, I was fortunate enough to be talented enough, and I worked hard enough to play baseball past college. But even then, if I knew what I knew now and believed in certain things like I believe in them now, I probably would have played longer. I was just kind of happy to be there back in the day. How were you able to take that? And I mean, first of all, like you could have totally taken that in the wrong direction and been that could have been your head been so big you couldn't come in the room type thing. That's not at all the case, right? So how were you able to take that and run with it?
So, you know, I'm going to tell you something in vulnerability and just tell you the story, the real story, and give you the details. But so when my dad passed, my mom took me back to Vermont, and she wanted to protect me and take care of me. Later in life, I learned that my dad came to the country in 1926 with his 4 brothers and sisters. They came to Ellis Island from Belarus, Minsk, Russia, which is now Ukraine. Mm. They were escaping the Holocaust.
Wow.
And so Isidore was my grandfather and my grandmother Sarah, you know, providing for 5 kids with $30 in their pocket when they came to the country. And I got a picture of my grandfather. He was a tailor.
Wow.
And everybody in this picture, I'll show it to you and make sure to send it to you after we're done, was dressed to the nines.
Mm-hmm.
The story is he got off that boat and within 3 hours had a job. He found a businessman. He said, I want to make you suits. And I'm like, that's my legacy right there, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And so my dad felt like, and my uncle, who I told you I later found and met,
yeah, man.
Felt like they owed it to our country. And so at the age of 17, my father lied and joined the U.S. Marines.
Okay.
At that time, we had no Air Force, and we had the Marine Air Wing.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a tail gunner.
Okay.
And he was back in the bubble. And then my Uncle Bob, he went to the Navy, and he was in Pearl Harbor. So they both served in World War II.
Wow.
My dad was at Okinawa, Iwo Jima. I'll show you some of the pictures that later in life I got, and to look at him and then look at me, I was like, wow. But where I'm leading with that is, you know, my dad served our country, but like many of our veterans, like he suffered with, you know, post-traumatic stress, you know, disorder for a long time, and
right.
It ultimately took his life.
Oh, man.
So when we went back to Vermont at 6 years old, your mother is protecting you, and she said, my dad had a heart attack.
Okay.
That's the right thing to probably do.
Right.
We waited, about 12 years old, we were having an argument, and I remember standing in the kitchen, and I made a comment, and I said, well, you're the one who didn't want me, because they said I was a surprise. Right?
I got you.
So I'm 12 years old. I'm angry. I don't have a dad. I played Babe Ruth. I played Little League. I'd look out in the audience. Why can't my dad be there? You know, I'd get a double.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mom, she was trying to teach me how to work, but if I got a double, she's like, why not a triple?
Okay.
If I got a B, all B's, she's like, well, next time let's get A's.
Right.
And so I loved my mom, so I was like, all right, back to work. Where most people nowadays, I think right now is, well, Mom, I was just doing my best.
Right.
You know, I took it as, all right, Mom, I'll go prove it to you.
That's right.
So we're standing there in the kitchen, and I said, you're the one who didn't want me. And she walked into the bedroom and got out the safety deposit box, came out, opened it up, and put the death certificate on the counter. And that's where I had found that my father had jumped off the Verrazano Bridge.
Gotcha.
They didn't find him for an extended amount of time. They don't really look for people in New York and stuff. So
right.
My cousin Stephanie is the one that identified him. And I remember that phone call, Nick. I was like 6 years old. I was watching a console television.
Yep.
And sitting on the floor. And I remember my mom getting a phone call. And I probably can't go through what I heard, but she was crying. And I remember her saying, you know, I'm scared. I'm worried, Murray. And that was my dad calling right at the payphone before he got in the van, stopped in the middle of Verrazano Bridge, and just walked right over.
Wow.
So at 12 years old, as a young man who's already trying to fight for some validation,
sure,
pretty darn hard finding out, oh, also your dad didn't want you.
Right.
Which is obviously not the story.
Right.
But later in life, I was blessed by John Eldridge and read Wild at Heart, and I realized, like, oh, it wasn't about me. It wasn't about anybody else. My dad was hurting.
That's right.
He was in pain. He had done shock therapy in the 50s. They tried that. Lithium, 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
In 1983, he'd be on it, he'd be off it, and then he kind of went into his cave. My mom, they were on and off. They never got married. He was, she was 17 and he was 47.
Wow.
And they met out of the country. And the story to my grandparents was, hey, Priscilla met a Jewish man and got on a cruise boat with him. And my mom is Roman Catholic, right? So that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was just an exuberant, over-the-top guy. You know, he's had a lot of personality, super generous. But ultimately, it haunted him that he would always tell my mom that he said, you know, I was taking the lives of people. I never saw their faces.
Wow. Yeah.
So as a young man, I looked at validation, and way before I got a chance to read Wild at Heart and understand validation, I went on a worldly mission of trying to make friends, trying to please friends, trying to make the guy that my mom was dating happy. Will you be is this guy going to be my dad?
Yeah.
I'll do really good at baseball, then people will love me. I'll get good grades, people will love me. I'll go to college, I'll be the first one out of 38 grandkids, and I'll go to college, and then they'll love me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still something that I have to check and talk to people about to this day,
Right.
because it can be unhealthy. So to fast forward, you know, after I found that out, I was on a tear. I was mad. I was going to prove. And eventually I got into drugs and women. And I thought that would be something that would validate me.
Sure.
Well, just like we all know, just like money,
Mm-hmm.
Those things aren't going to satisfy it.
Right.
So by the grace of God, I was working at Demas's. I had gone to Murfreesboro to be with a girlfriend.
Okay.
I hope she doesn't listen to your podcast. So I went to Tennessee Tech for engineering, but I moved to Murfreesboro, went to MTSU to be with her.
Okay.
And the first week of classes, I went over to her place and I opened up the door and she was with somebody in bed.
Gotcha.
Big, tall, handsome Australian tennis player. I'm like, well, that's not me. So that was another huge trauma point in my life.
Yeah.
So I went on another tear.
Mm-hmm.
And I got into mortgages because I was waiting tables at Demas's. And I had gotten a college degree in environmental science. I was basically, no offense to the folks that are environmental science, but it was a glorified janitor.
Yeah.
I was going into the waiting rooms and like getting all the materials and bad medical stuff, and I had to dispose it. And so here I am, 3-4 weeks after college, and I come back to work that evening shift, and Miss Demas, who's now passed away, he was an amazing mentor in my life. Spent 6 years there, taught me a lot about serving people and consistency. I trusted her, and she knew me. And I'm back there waiting tables. I'm kind of frustrated. And she goes, "What's wrong with you?" Or she said, "What's up with you?" And I said, "Miss D, I think I just went to college for 6 years to find out that I'm going to be a janitor at Vanderbilt." And she's like, "Well, what are you going to do about it?"
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was like, "There's my mom again."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, what am I going to do?" She goes, "There's a real estate developer and a mortgage guy up front. I want to introduce you to him." So she introduced him to me. He said, "Why don't you come on out? I'll, show you mortgage loans. I'll show you what it's all about." He showed me his tax return in the first interview on the desk, Nick, and I said, "I want to do that." And so he started teaching me, mentoring me, teaching me how to take care of people, be a referral source, nurture my past clients.
Mm-hmm. And
from that point, I was off. But here's where it all changed, and then I'll bring the story to the end, which is I wasn't in the business and I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. Have you ever related to that?
100%.
Like you get off track and the money's good and you like making people happy and all that, but that's not why you should be doing it.
That's right.
I want to change the world. That's what I want. I want to impact people's lives. Where when I go to heaven, like Ed Milet says, that I'm going to see the best version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to match it. And I'm petrified if I get there and I'm not. And people tell me that's unhealthy. And I'm like, whatever. This is the way I'm wired.
I feel that way a little bit about kids, the first time I saw my kid kind of like lose his cool when he was like 5, 6, it was like an out of body experience where I was like, holy crap, that's what God was saying. Look what a fool you look like when you act like that. You know what I mean? Like it was incredible. And I was, humiliated. I was embarrassed. I was everything. I apologized to her and him. And, I just, and it's something that, I don't know if I would have known that it was that way. But it was just such a cool experience looking back. I learned so much from it, all through a child, man. You know what I mean? All through a child.
Those are some of the best lessons, though, are from our kids.
100%.
They see it for what it is.
That's right.
And so, growing up as a kid, that all that stuff is so raw and we're so influenced, right?
Yeah.
Well, then my mom meets a gentleman and we end up in Tennessee like this. I skipped over that part, but we ended up in Tennessee because my mom remarried and he was a home builder and we wanted to go to Clarksville because in 1993, everybody was coming back from Desert Storm.
Yep.
So Fort Campbell was a major development area. So we moved to Clarksville and
Yep.
I enrolled freshman year, Clarksville High School.
Okay.
I don't know how many thousands of kids. First time I'd been in the South, I'd been down here for like 2 weeks.
Yep.
So imagine if a 5'1", 115-pound kid with a northern accent that says Walmart, Kmart, everything else weird, with a butt chin and a birthmark on the back of my neck. Can you only imagine
Yeah.
the stuff I started enduring? And the first day, a bully took my pizza off my plate, licked it, threw it down. He said, "Were you going to eat that?"
Wow.
I still remember Mark in his Chicago Bears jersey, and I'd like to buy that guy lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first period, I said something, probably smart mouth, trying to protect myself or build some rep
Mm-hmm.
to this black girl that was in my class. And eventually, what's funny was I became really good friends with her. But she chased me around the pod. This is first class. I'm going around pod. Of course, you can't run. And she tackles me, Nick, in the middle of a class and starts pummeling the back of my head.
Wow. Wow.
Funny to me now because I've used it well.
Horrific though at the moment.
Horrific.
Yeah.
Crushed me. And from that point forward, I got bullied for 4 years to the point that I almost wanted to kill myself.
Wow.
And I told you that story earlier. One of the guys that I remember his face and his smile and putting his arm around me and everything was Shawn Marion.
Mm.
And for those that don't know, Shawn played in the NBA for multiple years, Hall of Famer, Suns.
Yeah.
Him and Trenton Hassel, and I never played a game.
Right.
But my mama told me to get a seat on the bus, and I got a seat on that bus, and they made me carry the bags.
Yeah.
But what I learned from that and the friendship that Shawn gave me, probably I don't think I would be here today if it wasn't for him.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have killed myself.
Right.
Because I felt so special that such a superstar. Because back then in high school, everybody knew Shawn Marion and Trenton Hassel,
That's right.
and it fueled me to keep going.
Well, folks, if that doesn't, give you hope wherever you're at in your life, because obviously, a kid that got bullied and pushed around in school is now leading the curve in an industry and just flat out killing it and living a version of the life that we all want to a certain degree, right? So the mindset shift that you had to go through to get there, that's probably a heck of a journey, right? So you had every reason to just fail.
Every reason to fail, be in jail, kill myself, whatever.
Nobody would have blamed you for it.
No way. They would have been like, I expected that.
Right.
That kid didn't have a chance. I actually have, he's a minor league coach now. He's coaching majors, wherever. He was another gentleman that I'll never forget. And I've told him this, and his wife, because they were clients years later. Philip and Monty Wellman were a saving grace to my life.
Okay.
I went from Little League to Babe Ruth. I was pretty good at baseball. Okay. Maybe make it to college, but I would work hard.
Yep.
And my stepdad, had a friend named Philip Wellman, and Philip just took me underneath his wing when I got on his Babe Ruth team, and he taught me and spent time with me. And I remember he put his arm around me one day when we were walking off the field, and he said, "I'm proud of you." And that was another thing that fueled me for years and still to this day.
Mm.
Years later, about 8 years ago, I got a phone call. And he goes, "Shawn Kaplan?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, it's Philip Wellman. And I said, "Philip." He goes, "We're moving to Chattanooga. Can you do my loan?"
Wow.
So I told them on that call the impact they had in my life. He was the gentleman in Chattanooga Lookouts like 10 years ago that was walking, crawling across the
I know
field
exactly
through the rosin bag. That's Philip.
I know exactly who he is. He's freaking. That was one of the most unbelievable things. That's a thing, especially in the minor leagues. There's a lot of great things that happen, and one of those coaches really do a great job molding young men. But like those performances, I'll call they're a thing, and they bring so much joy to people. That's the best one ever.
He kept going around like picking up the bases. He was going to take those with him, but the crawl with the grenade.
Man,
that was the best. So that just brings me to a thought that I don't know what I did or how. I know I worked hard, really hard. I pride myself on working really hard. There's other people that do too, but really what it is I'm the sum of a lot of really great men that said, I'll help this kid, including my uncles, who has absolutely. And we owe it to tell those people, even if it was just for a moment.
100%.
Because then it'll propel you to do that in what we're doing right now for other people.
That's right.
Right? Somebody's going to say, I remember, Nick, you spent 5 minutes with me, right? You've already had it happen.
Mm-hmm.
I do a letter every month I send out to my database. It's just a letter from the heart. It has nothing to do with mortgages. It's just, here's some thoughts. And I send it to my about probably 10,000 clients. And I don't think much of it. One day I get a phone call. He goes, Shawn, this call is way overdue. You know, it's Bryce. And he said, I just been meaning to write or tell you or call you. You know, you sent a letter from the heart a year ago about quality of life and margin and trying to do things different than we've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, you encouraged me a year ago to sell everything. We bought an RV, and I'm happy to say for a year we've been traveling the country as a family. It's the best thing we ever did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all from my letter?
Yeah, dude.
But you never know who's watching.
So there's probably some folks out there that would love to get that letter from you on a regular basis. Is there any way that they can? How can they subscribe to that if they wanted to get that from you?
If you go to my Instagram, the Shawn Kaplan, there's a link tree.
There you go.
You can join my newsletter list if you want.
Boom.
And you'll get it every single month. You can also subscribe to my videos, things like that, of course. So
absolutely. Well, man, like, you know, you're right. You never know who you are affecting in a positive or negative way, for that matter. But again, it just, no matter, I mean, you had to have something within you though that was a driving force. Like for a long time, I always kind of felt like I was going to be somebody, but I didn't really know how, and it was almost like I expected it to just happen. Like that, you know, there was a certain level of just being in the trenches and getting beat up and beat up and beat up. I think as a parent, what I've learned, I've said this multiple times, is when my son was first born, I was always trying to not let him fall. Right. When what I learned is I can't be there all the time. My job is to make sure he keeps getting back up.
yeah,
Right. Because life's always going to knock you down.
Right.
Just keep getting up. And so now you guys are all make fun of me later with my daughter. I don't want her to fall. Right? It's different.
Yeah, right.
It's different. But you know, that was one of the things that my mom and dad did great for me. Where I struggled in life, it was where they didn't let me fall. But everywhere else, where they made sure I got back up, that's where we were always successful first.
That's what happened to me. It was just constant. Like I didn't have a choice, so I fell over. And you know, Nick, like. It didn't all just, hey, you know, I'm going to make something of myself. You know, honestly, until when I was waiting tables and I'm sitting there talking to Miss Demas about, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. Up until that point, like I was kind of just settled on, I'm going to make a salary. I'm going to get a job for 50 years. I hope to have a 401k. Mm-hmm. And then one day I'll retire. I'm going to be the first in my family that does that. Right.
Right.
And I'll tell you what happened was, about 2 years later, I was doing part-time and I was ready to go full-time in the mortgage industry. My boss was leaving to take a big role at a big builder here in Tennessee. And I was like, oh no, I got to go work somewhere else. But I got a new job. I was getting ready to go full-time. I was going to be done waiting. And it was my last day at Demas's. They even had a party for me and all of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm getting ready to wrap up 3-4 in the afternoon. I'm going by the host stand and I'm like, who is that?
Mm-hmm.
And I go up and I talk to this girl and I start talking to her and, you know, no, actually I didn't have enough courage to talk to her. I waited. And then what ended up happening was my buddy said, you should get her number. And I said, okay, well, I'll ask her. Well, I didn't get the gumption to ask her. And so missed my opportunity, right? She was about 5 years younger than me now. Later I found out, but you know where I'm going here. I bumped into her in the gym. Of course, I'm over there trying to do tries, you know, on these 4.5s, you know. In full transparency at that point, too, because I want everybody to know that they can always get the raw truth from me. I'm not covering up nothing. So I had, in a desire to be somebody, I was also at that time, I was on steroids, Sustanon 250. I was taking, you know, D-ball. I gained 35 pounds in 30 days. I was a beast.
Yep.
My neck was as big as my head. Jen tells me, she's like, I was scared of you. But her and her friend said, that's Shawn Kaplan over there. There he is. We got to go talk to him. So I'm over doing my tries. I get her phone number. I put it in my gym pants. Go home, wash it.
Oh.
So a couple months later, we're at a party. I bump into her. I said, you want to go on a date? We started dating. The rest was history. But I treated her like garbage for years.
Okay.
I didn't respect her. I had other girlfriends. I made mistakes.
I did too.
Did you?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And it was damaging, and it's still damaging, and I get that.
Absolutely.
And that's consequences, by the way. It's consequences to everything we do. Some people are like, oh, she should forgive me. No, you made that decision. You're going to spend the rest of your life trying to prove it.
That's right.
Right? And I will, and I'm glad to do it.
Absolutely.
But
it's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So we started dating, and she grew up in Smyrna, Pentecostal, great family. Her brother's a missionary in Israel. You know, Ryan lives in Florida. Great people.
Wow.
Most loving, grace-filled people I've ever met in my life, and I owe my life to them. Because here's what they did. They saw a lost boy, and they said, we're going to try to love on him like the other people. This is going to be our son-in-law. And no matter how rotten I was, I mean, I'm shocked that my in-laws, my father-in-law didn't beat me.
Right.
Because how I acted was awful. And one day, Jennifer said, my father's planning a trip to Israel. This is 2007. And said, do you want to go? And I said, well, how much is it going to cost? And he said, about $2,000. I'm like, I don't think you know where I'm going to get that money. I was like negative $14 in the bank account. You know, and the next day I walked into the office, and my owner of my company said, I want to tell you, me and Susan really, this is Mark Thomason, another good man in my life, and said, me and Susan want to bless you and tell you thank you for helping. We know you did that loan for free. And I opened up that envelope, and guess what was in there?
$2,000.
Check for $2,000.
Wow.
Called Doug.
Wow.
Not even going to church. Went to a Roman Catholic church as a boy, by the way, with my grandmother, and I was baptized. But after that, I didn't want nothing to do with the church.
Okay.
If Roman Catholic, if that means me being, you know, no offense to Catholics, but what I saw up there was like, I don't want to do that, right?
That's right.
So I ran away from religion, like a lot of people. And so I went to Israel.
Okay.
And my in-laws always have been like, you know, you're a special young man. Your dad was Jewish. You're a believer. Do you understand your calling? And I'm like, yeah, whatever, leave me alone. They'll say Jewish things to me like I'm supposed to know Hebrew. And I'm like, I don't know no Hebrew, you know, like.
Yep.
But they continued and loved, and we did Passover and Hanukkah and Christmas. And so went to Israel. Long story short, you know, I've shared my testimony with other people, but I had an encounter with God there. And everything flashed in front of me. The Philip Wellman with the arm around, going to Boy Scouts and going to Pinewood Derby, sitting in the back and watching David Crow and his dad, who would pick me up and bring me, saying, why can't I have my dad? And it flashed, and Nick, it felt like it was like 30 minutes. It was probably like, 8 seconds.
Right.
The clouds were overcast in Israel. We were down in Beersheba, and people that have been to Israel, it's always super, super hot. Or if it rains, you better get somewhere.
Right.
So clouds are weird. So it was cloudy that day. Me and my wife were arguing. I'm still living in, myself and my world. It's all about Shawn, not going to church, none of that. And so we had been there for a 2-week trip. We argued like dogs for a whole week. We're at her brother's house down in southern Israel. And I said, I'm going to go for a walk. I go to the door. I see my Bible laying there, and I snatch it up because I remember in my head, I said, if I'm in the Holy Land, guess I better read my Bible. I was just thinking this would be a good vacation.
Sure.
And I went out, and I walked outside the subdivision. I went down the hill, and I went up to the top, and there was a rock, and I sat on it. It was right in the middle of the hill. And I looked, and I got scared because there was a Bedouin with his 10 to 15 sheep. He just stood there, and he looked at me. He just kept on herding the sheep and went down. And I sat there. And I opened up that Bible, and that moment right there changed my life because it flipped to Hebrews 11:1.
Wow.
Which is the confidence, assurance, and faith. That whether you see it or you don't see it, have faith. God's working on it.
That's right.
So what gets me through every single thing, I've been through so much shit in my life. I've had kids in Clarksville High School said, if you would have killed yourself, I bet your dad wouldn't have killed himself. You should go kill yourself today, not even knowing my dad jumped off a bridge and what I was dealing with. And it just, instead of hardening me, in that moment, it flashed in front of me, and I heard God say, you have a father to make proud every day. And that's when I came back. I went back to the house. I had to tell them what happened, because that's what happens. I was like, I got to tell y'all what just happened. And somebody gave me Wild at Heart, and I read that book, and I realized it doesn't matter if you're my dad, you're my dad, you're my dad, the best dad in the world, the worst dad in the world. We're going to let you down, right?
Sure.
So, but one person won't let you down every day.
That's right.
And that's propelled me, and it's fueled me that, oh my God, this is awful that I'm going through right now. I just lost, $100,000. I just, I don't know what I'm going to do with the industry. 2009, right? Crisis.
Oh yeah.
Meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I'm like, God, you're doing something. So I know that on the other side, my armor is going to be even stronger, and my wisdom is just going to be so much better, because this is where I learn,
Man.
in the trenches.
Shawn, this is what's so cool about the podcast world and a platform like this is, you and I could talk shop all day long and never run out of good stuff to say and tell and people to help. But these are the stories that change people. These are the stories that really, it's more than the surface, right? And it's so rare to get access to that, especially in successful people, because most of the time they're very guarded. They have to be. There's a brand at stake, or who knows what. There's publicists saying you can and can't do that, agents saying this and that. It's really, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you opening up, and what a great story, man. And we're just getting started. We're just getting started, right? So, and it's, a lot of people have those moments, and I think they don't recognize them, because they get so, your past is not a life sentence, right? It's
right.
You know what I mean? It's just the past, and tomorrow's a new day, and it's what you can make in it. I repeat myself so many times on this. The difference between the business owners that launch quickly and the ones that really struggle in the beginning or don't take off at all is 100% their belief in themselves. Some people just don't believe they're worth it. They don't believe they'll ever have it. I was guilty of that for a long time. And it was not that my parents did anything wrong. It's just the time that we were raised, and we were told don't do things instead of try to do this. We were told it's kind of like as a baseball player, instead of saying don't swing at a ball over your head, you should just say swing at balls that are in the strike, down in the strike zone. It's a negative connotation which messes with you a little bit, So kudos to you for being able to be open for that moment when it happened, because I think we all have our moment.
Yeah, we're having them right now.
That's right.
I'll have one today. I'll have one tomorrow. Hopefully they won't be that bad.
So,
but I'm still on that mission of learning every single day.
So when you told your family, who was loving and nurturing this turd, right?
Yes.
Right. So,
yes.
I remember when I had my moment and I told my family, they were like, "Well, we're happy for you, but I don't know if there was a lot of belief yet because there wasn't a track record." Right. So how did that how'd that go for you when you told them that?
So I went back and we had one more week in Israel.
Okay.
And that was pretty profound, because the light bulb went off on being Jewish and what the Jewish people had to go through,
mm-hmm.
And the significance of it, and, I always joke, but I never knew what my boss is a Jewish carpenter bumper sticker meant. And that's the best way to describe that last week in Israel.
Wow.
Got to go to Jerusalem, went to Eilat, floated in the Dead Sea. Israel is an amazing country. I've been 5 times now.
Wow. That's on our bucket list to do. We haven't gone yet.
No, look, the biggest reason people don't go is they think the Middle East is not safe.
Right.
Right? I will tell you, I feel a lot safer with 50 people around me with M16s, because everybody has to get in the military over there,
mm-hmm.
than I do in downtown Nashville on Broadway.
Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. And it's a beautiful country, and I wish more people would go and experience it for a vacation and to pursue their faith or, explore the country and the history.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So spent a week there, got baptized in the Jordan River.
Wow.
Had a certain vision of that. It's kind of like an amusement park. They got like railings set up and stuff, Nick.
Oh, wow.
You pay and they got a gift store. But here's the weirdest thing. So be prepared for this. When you go to get baptized, you walk down the ramp, you got a handrail, people are standing in line. It's like, and you can get your own little area, but when you get in the water, there's giant catfish.
No, okay.
Because they're not kosher, and they don't eat them, so they just leave them there.
Gotcha.
And they'll get all around your feet, and I was like, ugh. But it was a really cool experience. My pastor from Murfreesboro, when we went on our 3rd trip, he baptized my wife in the Jordan River.
Oh, how cool is that?
That was cool. So we got to spend a great trip there. I came back, and it changed everything, Nick. I mean, it was, you found your calling, you found what God, and here's why why all this happened to you. Now go use it.
That's right.
And so
That's a big one.
Yeah. Here's what happened. Here's your tragedy. Now go use it. Like, don't squander it. Most of us just want to go ahead and stuff that stuff because it hurts.
Yes.
A lot of people are like, why doesn't he open up more? Because he doesn't want to deal with it because it hurts so bad.
Yeah.
But man, if you can build trust and get him to peel that stuff back, there's some great collateral in there.
Well, you got to have a certain level of security to be able to. I ran from my past for a long time. I wasn't ready to face it. You have to, it's a certain thing you have to build up to, I think.
You definitely do.
But once it's time, it's time.
It was. Now, I did get a chance. My wife was like, I'm going to get this kid to church, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she went to a church in Smyrna, and she's like, I'll bring him to World Outreach in Murfreesboro. It's a great place to go. Pastor Allen's and I connected with him immediately.
Yeah, they do a great job out there.
Because you know what Pastor Allen did on stage? And it was the first thing I'd ever seen a pastor ever do or heard a pastor do. That sermon, he talked about how he had gotten addicted to hydrocodone just a couple of years before as a pastor, and he had to get off it.
Mm-hmm.
And next time I see him, I'm going to tell him that moment right there is what broke my authenticity seal.
Bam.
That's what I call it.
Woo! Let's talk about that too. Yes, sir.
Have you ever done something you did it and you were like, oh, that's not that hard?
Absolutely.
You ever jumped off a rock quarry or a bridge into the water or something?
The first time I skydived, I felt that way, right?
Yep, and you did. It's not that bad, right?
No, it was funny, and the guy, we were doing it for a cause. So there was a meaning behind it, but I never forget. I was a little nervous getting on the plane. My wife and Ethan was just, he may not even been 1 year old yet. And so I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm trying to be the tough guy. And we get in this rickety old plane, because they don't have nice planes to do that in. And we go up, and they're going through the stuff, and we get about 8,000 feet, and all of a sudden they don't tell me there's a guy that's doing it on his own, and he's jumping from 8,000 feet. So literally the door goes up and this guy just rolls out, and I was just like, what just happened? And then when that happened, they killed the engine for a second, so we hit the roof of the plane with their head, and then they started right back up, and we go again. And so I'm freaking out now a little bit. I'm like, what was that? And they're like, oh, that's so and so. He does that all the time. That's it. That's his a hobby of his. And so I'm like, all right, cool. And they had rigged my goggles where right before I'm about to go, the lens falls out.
Oh.
So they tapped me on the side of the head to say it's time to get up to the door, and the lens fell on the floor. And I was like, what just happened? And so they're messing with me real good. And but at that moment, they put the goggles, they gave me a real pair of goggles, and I get to the door, and I'm like, well, first of all, I was like, this is amazing. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, besides my wife and kid. And I was like, well, if this is it, I'm going to enjoy it. And I immediately just, all the fear left. Wow. And I was ready to roll. And then it was and then I enjoyed the whole experience. And that taught me a lot about fear, because I could have enjoyed the plane right up.
Right.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what was going to happen regardless. So I learned a lot about fear from that. And Will Smith tells a similar story about when he bungee jumped, about how he was scared to death for a day or two before, and it was just wasted time.
Right. Absolutely. You know what the opposite of faith is? It's fear.
That's right.
So when that verse, the reason why it's so important to me is because I have no room for fear. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things, my wife and everybody else says, that they don't understand. They're like, how do you have, you're not scared, you're not worried. Yeah, I'm human. I have my moments, usually when I watch a lot of news or watch a lot of social media, but overall, because I've been through so much, I'm like, it's going to be okay. And matter of fact, I think I'm going to get something good out of this.
Damn, that's right. And dude, you can, I really believe in the power of belief and manifestation. What you focus on grows.
Absolutely.
So if you only focus on bad things and the wrong things in your life, it grows. But everybody comes with a certain set of tools and gifts, man. And if you can figure out what those are and how to utilize those for the good of somebody else, you're going to win at this life. And you're probably going to have a lot of money too.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we should go a little deeper for your listeners on that part.
Come on.
Finding out your gifts and your talents. Because I don't know about you, that was really frustrating for me coming up, because I was like, look, I'm just trying to survive. I don't know what my gifts and talents are. I'm not operating from abundance right now. I'm operating from scarcity.
That's right.
And I see a lot of people out there, and I'm so passionate about this right now, which is helping American families get out of debt and build wealth easy with a blueprint that an idiot farm boy from Vermont can do. Okay? And I'll teach you. If you respect my time, if you'll be loyal to me, I'll give you the keys to the kingdom. I'll tell you how I did it. So when I got out of college, I didn't tell you, I had $146,000 in student loan and credit cards.
Yep.
Because my mom was broke, worked 3 jobs. I mean, I worked all through high school and college. And the only way I could go to college was to finance it. But the private loan guy that knocked on our door when I said, yes, I want to go to college, sir, never explained anything.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was signing either.
It was awful. Adjustable, AES. I'm like, well, I can't even get the good student loans. Like, that's how bad I am. And again, it was like, all right, whatever. So when I got into the mortgage business, one of the things Rob told me, he goes, I'm going to help you pay all that off. I was like, what? You're going to pay it off? He goes, no, you're going to pay it off, but I'm going to help you and show you how to do it.
Wow.
I said, yes, sir. I've always been a good soldier, because every guy that came in my life or somebody that was, trying to help me, I wanted to please them. Yeah. So I would just go do the work.
That's right.
So when I met Rob, I was like, tell me what the work is. Give me the blueprint. I'll go do the work. Right. And that's a real problem, I think, for America right now, because people think they have to have it all figured out. They think they have to have that gift and talent versus maybe go find a guy who does it. Like, I don't do this. You do.
The journey is the gift, man. Like, for sure. That's why you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right. Is because of the knowledge that when you look back and you look at how far you came and everything, it's the journey is the best part. It's the gift.
And I only tell the story because it gets me fired up there. But I only tell the story because, I want people to understand, like, you've got somebody that's an advocate, you can do it, and we'll show you how, but you're going to have to put the gumption forward to do the work.
That's right.
Right? And so I had $146,000 in debt. He showed me how to buy a house with zero down. Back then in the 2000s, you could buy zero down pretty much everything. That's why we ended up in 2009.
That's right.
And I bought my first house. I made $35,000 on it. I ended up buying the next one. I made $60,000. I was like, okay, here we go. I kept doing 100% and then pay the debt off. Well, what do you think I still do 21 years later?
That's right.
I love mortgage debt.
That's right.
Now, I like a down payment now, but I like a mortgage on my house, and we could talk about that later. But here's where that goes, Nick. This kid who went through with continual kind of just breaks in his life that gave him every reason not to trust anybody and give up, tried to please other people to the point that he went and got $146,000 in debt, has been able to break free of that. But when I was able to get over that, I am willing to tell people what's wrong with me. That authenticity seal combined with what happened in Israel, the last 12 years, I could never have even written a story or thought I would be where I'm at, not just financially, but friendships, the people I get to meet, the places we've gone, I feel like I'm breaking generations that we've had going on in my family and my wife's family financially and staying married and things like that.
Yeah, man.
And I want that for my girls so bad that I don't want them to ever have to go through what I went through, And so at 39, I became a cash millionaire. And I only say that because I want people to understand.
That's right.
Like, what do you mean you became a cash? I had $1 million cash in the bank at the age of 39. I'm not talking about leverage and equity and all that stuff. And it was only because of multiple men that came in my life. In 2008, a gentleman came in my life, and he's still in my life now. And he's probably the most impactful and the longest mentor I've had, Rick Ruby. And Rick's taught me about debt, taxes, and he's forced me to save, Nick, for 12 years, 20%.
Wow.
He also forced me to give away 10%. Not force, but encourage.
Absolutely.
And because of that, man, and he showed me dollar cost averaging, almost 14 years ago, that was part of it. And now I'm almost 45, so.
Wow.
It's been a blessing. It's been amazing. And for me now, it just inspires me even more to use it to the good and share it with other people and show them how to do it.
So people will hear that you were a cash millionaire at 39. And they're going to say, wow, that's great. He's young to accomplish that. But, they're not willing to go through your late 20s and your early and mid 30s to get there, because there was probably some times where you wanted to quit. Like it got hard, and that's the thing. So like the one thing I've learned, my wife and I've been very blessed to have found a great opportunity in the world of health insurance. You could go to every school in America, maybe the world, and maybe outside of my son, not one kid's going to stand up on career day and say, when I grow up, I'm going to be in insurance.
Right.
As a matter of fact, Tom Brady said when he was talking about the draft and getting drafted so late, he's like, 5th round went by, and I thought, geez, I'm going to end up selling insurance or something.
Oh,
no.
Same with mortgages. Nobody goes to school for that.
But it's an outlet that you can help and touch tons and tons of folks. And it does. If you do a good job, you can get paid really well to do it. And that's a great thing, because I grew up in a world where a lot of people villainized people with money. If they had money, they couldn't be good. And what I figured out is a pastor told me this. My Pastor Roger did. He said, Nick, everybody can give their time, not everybody can give money.
Yeah.
He said the church wouldn't be here if we didn't have money.
That's right.
And so, money just magnifies. If you're a good person, it makes you a better person. If you're a bad person, it makes you a worse person. So I think it just magnifies who you really are.
Yeah. And absolutely, 100%. And even sometimes you catch yourself going towards the bad person.
Absolutely.
You're like, whoa, why do I want this car? Or why do I want to buy that? Or why do I want to close this deal?
Mm-hmm.
You really want to help those people? Ask them, what do you think is best for you? I'll support you if you want to buy the house or not buy the house.
That's right.
Abundance, not scarcity. And spot on. And we've got to learn this sort of stuff, and we've got to use other people and help other people, but we can't do it until we really are truly authentic with other people.
So you've used that word authentic. So it's so cool because I've had some amazing people sit in that chair. It's been used over and over and over by winners. That's how important it is. Whether it be Bobby Pinson was sitting in there just the other day. He said that word multiple times. Charlie Monk, the mayor of Music Row. I said, "What's the key, man?" He said, "Authenticity."
Yeah.
What's the key to being successful? Authenticity.
Yeah.
It's been said. Every name on the wall over here has just about said that, right? So, and what that means to me is, when I didn't like myself, so I wasn't authentic. I was fake. I was somebody that I thought everybody else wanted to be. So it's about a relationship with yourself where you're comfortable enough to be who you really are, who you're put here to be.
Yeah.
And how can you expect anybody else to like you if you don't like you?
I'll tell you a little story around that. Again, all tied into, just why. But, Nick, have you had these points where you're like, okay, I feel like I'm getting it figured out. And then you're like, oh, okay. You have another launch or, like you're jumping off a trampoline.
All the time.
Right. And one of those moments was, I was out in Murfreesboro and there's a coach out there that I've known for a long time. And, he looked at me one day and he was authentic. He was also not worried about being kind. He wanted truth, which I love in my life. We're on this kindness thing, we're not in a kind society.
Your feelings aren't truth either.
No, and what we have to do is we have to seek truth in the foundation or the ground, and then I can worry about basing my feelings and emotions about the rest of this. So anyway,
that's Socrates stuff right there.
It sure is. I'm just thinking because this is emotional for me.
Sure.
I've had multiple of these in my life, and there was a moment that Coach looked at me. And I'm just in Murfreesboro, standing in his new, building and facility, Coach Burt, and he looks at me and he goes, Shawn, there's 7 billion people on the planet. Some will, some won't, so what? And I was like, yeah, I've heard you say that, Coach, over and over. And he looked right at me, he goes, but if you keep trying to make everybody in this world happy and trying to be everything to everybody else, you're going to end up just like your dad.
Wow.
I was like, whoa. And that right there, what I was doing was I was wearing the suit and the tie that I had gone, by the way, to Goodwill store pretty much the first 3, 4, 5 years of my career. My mama taught me garage sales, hand-me-down cousins, whatever. No shame. I didn't know the difference. So when in college, I would shop at Goodwill and Salvation Army because there's some good stuff over there.
That's right.
And I would take it to a little tailor down the road, and for $10, $20, I would scrounge together. She would tailor it up. So when I went to places, I'd wear a suit, tie, because my mama always taught me those might be used jeans, but I'm going to iron and starch them, and people will give you compliments on them. And she would. I'll be like, whoa. So that's also why Miss Demas hired.
Wow.
That's also why Miss Demas hired me, because when she interviewed me, she goes, "Your shirt is starched." I said, "Yes, ma'am." She goes, "Do you do that all the time?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She goes, "You're hired." Because everybody in Demas's had to have a crease going down their sleeve and their apron. If you didn't, Miss D would send you home. Pack your stuff. Get out of here. If your drink was half full on a table and she saw it, she'd be like, "Table 22, you do it again, go home." Right? Well, she's smoking cigarettes in the restaurant back in those days.
Yep.
So kind of lost my train of thought where I was going there with that stuff. So Coach Burt. Some will, some won't. So what? Well, then when I went to meet with the builder, what do you think I wore when I went to see the builder? Jeans, boots. Well, there's some appointments. Then I got to go meet with a business. I'm running home. I was miserable.
Yeah.
I was trying to do marketing for one person one way. I would do one for the other. A boss this way, a coworker that way, a girlfriend that way. And I was on this just path, and I was going to end up probably killing myself. I was miserable. And at that point, I had finally, made 6 figures. I thought things were good. I'm out of the broke phase.
Yeah.
No more Goodwill suits, And Coach said that. And that was about the time I went to Israel. And that was another game changer. And I'll tell you, just until 39, I'm 45, Nick, I battled with it all up until a couple of years ago with video.
Yeah.
How do I sound? Being in front of people? Do you like me?
Yeah.
And I don't say that I don't care now. It's different. It's more of, hey, I'm going to go ahead today on your podcast and I'm just going to share and be real. And for those of people out there that like me, awesome. At least I know they like me.
Yeah, they can turn it off. And they have a choice.
And if you don't, at least you got the best version of myself.
That's
like I told you, I'm sorry I wore my, Vioris over here today. I usually, at least dress up a little bit. And I was like, you know what? No, Nick wants me.
That's right.
And this is what I'm doing now. And social media has been awesome. Video, has been awesome too, because what happens is like people are going to follow you if they like you. Mm-hmm. And if they don't, they won't follow you. So with social media, I'm like, so I know these people want to be around me. And that also changed. That changed everything. That more so changed my business.
Right on.
Because I started leading the way I want to lead instead of what everybody else had trained me to do. Like I just built out a new office and everybody's like, this is different. Wow, this is amazing when you walk in. It's an open concept, stand-up desk, trees in the office, moss wall. And I was like, that was my vision. I want to be different.
People that, when I built this room, people that I was in business with told me I was a fool.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
They're not laughing. They're not laughing now.
No, you're not.
You never get hated on by somebody that's doing something bigger than you.
That's right.
Ever.
That's right.
And I come in here, I'm like, you're doing this way bigger than I am. I want to learn from you. I asked you a bunch of questions, right?
They sure did.
I mean, it's impressive.
It sure did. And we learned from, this, if you've ever been in Bradley's studio in Vegas, this is a smaller version of that.
I have not. I hope Brad will invite me.
It's very similar. So Brad, we got to get my boy Shawn on dropping bombs. And on the same thing, we love Coach Burt around here.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to get him on yet. So Coach Burt, I'm calling you, man. Let's go.
I'll text him when I get it done here.
Perfect. We got to get him on. He'll kill it. It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get him in.
He would.
So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say at that point, as far as business goes, it's just been a gift because I'm like, oh, you don't have to be like everybody else like you were for 39 years. And then now I'm doing it and like guys like you like it.
Yep.
Like on my videos and my social media. Now I'm not getting up there and like just saying whatever I want to say, but I'm not going around and worrying about who's not going to like me.
That's right.
And I do feel like I've kind of broke through that. And what's cool about that now is it's exponentially happened. And all the stuff that I've had good people in my life, it's like it's come together. And right now, I'm either going into a storm or I've come out of a storm. But I know one thing, I'm not in a storm right now. And there will be times.
Yep.
But right now, I'm able to teach people. And people are coming to me because I'm not the guy who's on the internet or a loan officer or... That's my primary source of income. I have a couple other companies. I have a 2 farms, some things that I do to, but my primary thing is I go to work every day, Monday through Friday. I still meet with my clients. And what's made me different is they will now come to me and say, can you show me or tell me how you did what you did? And I'm like, absolutely.
That's right.
And it's an honor. It's a privilege. And I love seeing my clients now come back and they got debt paid off. They got better homes. They got families. Some of them are millionaires. I have employees that are millionaires. Everybody on my team has to buy a house. Everybody on the team lets me look at their budgets. Personal family budget every month voluntarily.
It's fantastic. That is fantastic. And you said something about you did it for 39 years. Something you dress a certain way for somebody else. There's something to that, right? So I was the same way. It was for a minute. I at one point in time, I remember I looked around and I was at this conference for insurance and I was like, everybody in here is wearing a navy or black suit. And I'm looked down and I'm wearing a navy or black suit. As a matter of fact, I had said something on a stage one time and the 2 guys were at the bar talking about what I had said. And I looked so much like everybody else that they looked at me and they're like, did you hear what that guy said? And I was the guy that said it. That's how unmemorable I was. Right. And there's one of my favorite TV shows of all time was Entourage. And Ari Gold told Vinny in there when Vinny wanted to do a small, non-studio film, He's like, you haven't earned that yet. He's like, you got to go 2 or 3 for them, then you get 1 for you. And that always kind of stuck with me. I remember I just got to that point where it was like, I don't have to dress a certain way anymore. I figured out who I was and that I could be that, and I could dress what that was. And that is constantly evolving too, right?
Yes.
So the point is that it's not permanent. It's temporary. When you start a business, it's the hardest. You work the most hours. You're cooking. You're the accountant. You're the general manager. You're the chef. You're everything. But it's temporary. It's not permanent.
Yes. We spend too much time telling all of ourselves what we are not instead of what we are.
That's it right there. Shoot, if that's all they heard from this episode right now, that would be it. That's amazing.
And here's what I mean by that is we're so focused on getting up in the morning, rushing, making our coffee, spending half our life in our cars, drive to work, spend all day there, rush home, messages, bills, whatever, kids come in the door, food, I just want to sit down, zone out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us on our phones and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what do we do about all of that? What can we do about all of that? And the thing is like, here's what you need to do instead of looking at all that. Look at what you do have and look instead of what you don't have. Here's what I mean, really. I would love if everybody that listens to your podcast would go and write down, like, what are the things that I went through or make me unique? Because most people I find don't even know them because they're so busy telling themselves what they aren't. They don't even know what they are.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I am a dumb Vermont farm boy who is Jewish, who goes to church, who lived in Vermont, moved to the South. I love to hunt. I love super fast cars, and I got to tell you that story.
All right.
I love to make money because I love giving money away.
That's right.
We've fed probably over 2 million people in Tennessee, and a lot of people don't even know.
I was going to ask you about
6
that.
years, me and my wife have done a mobile food pantry, a tractor trailer truck that we bought every single month for 6 years. And I don't tell a lot of people about that because I don't want to.
Right.
I just want to bless people. But like, I deer hunt people, stuff over there, I love America, and it's like, what are you? And my wife's like, you're a Renaissance man. And that's another little bullet point that has stuck in my brain forever and motivated me. I'm like, I took it on as an identity, and I thought about the Dos Equis guy. And I was like, yeah, I'm a Renaissance man. First time I'd ever really knew what that word meant. And so now I'm like, y'all go be Renaissance men and women, which is you.
You're like a modern Renaissance.
Yeah.
Man. That's cool.
And tell the story.
That might be the thumbnail right there.
Right? But I just think that's something I'm super, super passionate about, as you can tell. And I really want to help people because I don't want them to go 39 years like I did.
That's right. So that's what I tell people too is, if I could change anything, it's just that I would learn what I learned faster and at an earlier age. That was it. But it probably wouldn't have worked, and that wasn't my journey. But there was some really dark times around 30, the early 30s, late 20s after life after baseball. I just looked up one day and I'm like, well, I don't do that anymore. Who in the hell am I? That was been who I was for my whole life, that I could remember. So, well, check this out. So you guys have been doing something really cool while you are building one of the most beautiful places that you'll see in this town anyways. But you guys have been, and there was a song way back that my dad played for me when I was a kid about, he said that love grows best in little houses. You know what I mean? And that's really good. And when we first started, we were a very small office, much like the space we're in now. And it was a great way to launch businesses and get to know people and grow together. So you guys have, while you're building you guys' dream home, right? What have you guys been doing? This is so cool, man.
Well, I don't know if it's my dream home. My wife, it was our dream home, but then it progresses, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm also about making money, and real estate's a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. But it's been a blessing, and the reason why we bought that farm 7 years ago and just sat on the land, because I lived in Murfreesboro, and I was a Rutherford County commissioner, and I wanted to serve, and if I bought land and built in Williamson County, I'd have to give up my seat. So I purposely didn't build, and I stayed, and, again, there was a plan. You can go back and Google it. But we sold our house in Riverbend because my youngest daughter, has a mild form of cerebral palsy called ataxia.
Okay.
And so she can't jump. She can't really, run real fast when she's little and all of that. And the doctors are like, she's going to have this forever. So we had a 3-story house in Riverbend subdivision in Murfreesboro, and we knew that wasn't going to work.
Right.
So we had to sell it, but I said, I don't want to leave the county commission. I want to finish the job.
Yep.
And so my wife looked for apartments, like legitimately looked for an apartment to move into so I could stay. And the sheriff in that town, Robert Arnold, who ended up going to jail, and he did his thing, and I'm proud of him. You know, I know that sounds weird, but he went through a lot.
Yeah.
He stepped up. But he had given me a map in my county commission meeting of all our districts. So I'd given that to my wife, and that's what she based it off. I'm at work one day, and I get a phone call from Jen, and she goes, Shawn, the Daily News Journal is here. And by the way, the guy tried to open up the door, and I went to close, and he put his foot in it. I immediately got in my car, and then I called him. And I said, if you ever, and a couple other choice words, you know, put my wife in that position. And I knew immediately that I was done, because here's what my wife told me. She said, hey, they say that we moved across your district line. I said, no, you looked at the map. She goes, yeah, I did. That you gave me. She goes, but I just Googled it. I went to the site. That map's wrong. So I went back to the county commission, Mayor Burgess, who, you know, great guy in my life. I have lots of talks in his office, and he's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to serve some more. And he goes, well, then you're going to have to, you know, let them know you have reasonable intention of, you know, staying in Rutherford County, serving, or maybe moving back in your district. And I said, sir, I can't tell you that. And right there, I went back to my office. I wrote a 3-page resignation letter. Right there, I told Mayor Burgess, I said, can I have a first, you know, moment? And I'm going to resign. And he's like, okay. He gave me the first moment. I went back to my office. I wrote 3 pages. It's pretty masterful. You need to look at it on YouTube. The video's on there. Yeah, man. But those words were all given to me from, you know, the Lord gave me those words that I put on that piece of paper. And I stood up there, and I said, these are the 3 priorities of my life: God, my family, my employees, and then serving the county. And I have to be true to that. And I also have to be true to my word. And so we resigned, and that was awful. I was actually probably one of the first people that got canceled. Like, I literally got canceled. This was 2016, 17, and like trying to make this story. Yeah. In the news, the guy who was at the house, he was trying to make it a story that I was in building a house in Williamson County. I was going to move, try to lie, still serving my whatever. I don't know what it was. It was stupid. They pulled my tax records, told everybody what my addresses were publicly in a newspaper, how much I paid for my house and my land, and like, it was just the first time I had been exposed on a broad basis. So that might have broke me pretty good, of not worrying about what people think, because I thought 300,000 people are watching me. You know what happened 2 or 3 weeks later when I asked people, or when I told people I resigned? What do you think people said? Oh, man. Some of them, a lot of them said, I didn't even know you were a commissioner. Oh, wow. Like, really? So when we think the whole world's watching, just remember, it's usually not as many as what we think. That's right. Right? That's right. It's kind of like social media. You get 14 likes. Be happy for those 14. If 14 people came up to you today and said, I like you, it'd be a pretty good day, right? That's right. So we had the piece of land in Williamson County I'd bought for investment purposes and hunting, because I told my wife I want to get back, you know, have my own piece of land. And so then we were like, we should probably build. And dummy me goes down there one day, and I bought a tractor and all that, and I wanted a barn. So I got a gentleman I knew, a Mennonite guy, to come out there and build me a barn. Well, we went to go get the building permit, you know, a couple months later, and the surveyor called me out there, and I went out there, and there was a Williamson County truck, and they had the survey things all set up. And I said, uh-oh. And they said, hey, who did your survey? And I said, I didn't do one. And they said, well, how'd you pick the location of your barn? And I won't stand up and do it, but I walked over there, took my heel, and I said, just like this. And they said, really? And I was like, yeah, the poles are right there. Like, there's no need to do a survey. I just backed it off the line by, you know, the easement amount. They said, somebody moved those poles. Those aren't accurate. Oh, wow. So Williamson County, you know, of course, you know what that's like. You know, ran me through the ringer, and I'm a fighter. That's right. So I bought, and we were very, very blessed about a year and a half ago to start building our Vermont, New England modern farmhouse. That's right. Yes. That's right. And I'm proud of it because it's not on us. It's almost like a symbol collectively of all those people that poured into my life. And so we built a giant front porch that we can sit on and look. And I want some of those people to come and sit and have a cup of coffee or sit on that rocking chair with me. That's right. And be able to experience what they gave me. Yep. And so we did cedar roof, we did copper flashing gutters, we got sourced a stone in Tennessee for the foundation and the stacked fireplaces. It's really, really cool.
That's awesome.
We want to build a facility down back in the backfield. We have 20 acres and right behind Mint Springs Farm. And I want to be able to use that for a facility to have people come in and pro bono, consult them on their business, help them, system, strategy, processes. I want to have an office. I want a kitchen and beds. And if you want to come stay for the weekend, that's what I want to do, man. That's what I want to do, I think, for the rest of my life.
Well, if history serves correct, I'd say you'll be doing that.
I will be doing that.
That's right. That's right. So, well, let's talk a little bit of shop for it, and we'll keep it kind of short because you put so much great content out. If they want it, they can go there, right? So, but what's like? I'm sure, just like anything else, the media outlets are putting a lot of fear where maybe there don't need to be. All right, when it comes to the industry of real estate, mortgage, and all that kind of stuff, right? So, I don't know. What's a couple of things that stand out right now about the current market that home buyers need to know?
First of all, you know why people spread fear? Because it's too much work to show up and provide value like you, right?
Damn right about that.
And so they take the easy route, which is, well, I'll just it's like sales, right? The fear-based close. I hate it.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you what might happen. That's not my plan.
Yeah.
I'm not going to scare you into working with me.
Yeah.
But so the media right now, that's what they're doing. They want you to think that buying real estate is very risky, very scary, overpriced. Look, folks, don't take my word for it. Just pull up the historical appreciation of real estate. It's a diagonal line.
There you go.
You don't have to be a rocket scientist here. That's why I love it.
Yes.
Pull up the stock market. How many zigzags are in that thing over the last 40 years? I mean, it hasn't been pretty for me the last 4 or 5 months because I'm in the stock market too. But I love real estate 50%, and I love just good old S&P index.
That's right.
27% last year, and well, not so much this year, but
that's right.
Take the wins with the losses, right?
That's right.
2-1.
Nobody's undefeated.
No, sir. So what I'm super passionate about is breaking that fear and breaking that bad news cycle.
Yep.
Right? People don't get good advice from the right sources.
There's always a way.
Always a way. I operate from the bigger pile principle. Because
I love that.
Bigger pile principle is your marriage is better than mine. Can I come and have a cup of coffee with you, and will you breathe into my life? You know, paraphrasing it. You know, man, you're an amazing basketball player. Would you show me how, to shoot free throws the right way? You're a great mortgage guy. Can you go ahead and show me how to be the best mortgage guy? I want to be like you.
There you go.
Or my mentor has $100 million in the bank. He's very wealthy, blue collar, started out as a furniture salesman. I'm like, Rick, please tell me what to do with my money and hold me accountable to it.
That's it. Boom.
Right? That's the secret sauce.
That's right.
People are scared, super scared of accountability. And I get it.
Sure.
We got enough pressure in life. Remove another pressure in your life and add the accountability pressure. Which one do you think is better for you?
You know, the greatest people in any industry, it goes back to the old saying that pressure bursts pipes and the same pressure breaks that makes diamonds. Pressure causes some men to break, and pressure causes some men to break records. You know what I mean? And the documentary that is out about Derek Jeter, the captain, he talks about that a lot. It's really, really good.
Still got to watch that. So many people have recommended that. But what you said is so true. And if I ever look away, I've started telling people another thing I noticed about myself is I think in pictures.
Yeah.
So I'm listening, but I'm thinking of an analogy because I'm an idiot usually.
Me too.
Not really. I should stop telling myself that, but it's a joke. But I'm like, I'm just not smart. I'm just a hard worker.
We just learn different.
Right. We just learn different. But like the pictures help me in, society.
Yeah.
So another thing that I've done and I feel is I was taught that in old world, mortgage world, my mentor, you ask your clients to get a certain set of documents together and they come into your office and they meet with you. If you meet face to face with every client, they're going to feel more welcome, more trustworthy. They're going to feel like, they feel special.
There's a relationship.
Absolutely. So here's another good little story as we kind of go into that is, so COVID hits. 19 years in the business, I've met with everybody face to face. Every single person. Nobody's ever met with my people whatsoever in my Murfreesboro office or in my Franklin office. COVID hits. What am I going to do? What the hell is going to happen to my business? And it forced me, just like everything else in my life.
Yep.
Good luck. figure it out. So I set up a nice set. I got the good equipment. And I said, you know what? I'm going to ask everybody to do a Zoom with me. Because guess what? All the guy down at SunTrust Bank, or I'm sorry to say that, a name, but at the local bank downtown, right? You think they allow him to get on a video? Do you think he wants to get on a video? Do you think he looks professional? You know, and I think that's important because we're visual people, and we set a narrative gap with people immediately unless we set that narrative gap with them.
That's right.
Right? So, you know, say the word realtor. What do people think? Don't tell people that you're a real estate agent. Tell people, hey, this is what I grew up doing, and this is why this is important to me. By the way, I sell real estate.
Bam.
So going back to what people are hearing in the media and stuff, unfortunately, it's just super, super inaccurate. Just like interest rates. Like, people think they can just call a bunch of banks and they're going to be better at shopping the loan than I am after 21 years, right?
Right.
That's what I tell my clients. I'm like, hey, no offense. I got one credit report. I don't know if you know this. We're a federally chartered bank, but I'm going to shop your loan for you with 20 people. I can do it better than you.
Yep.
Right? Stop trying to call around and have a bunch of people pull your credit report. Well, what are they doing? They're trying to get trust. They're trying to really, really feel like they know what this person's saying.
Right.
Right? And that they can base their decisions off it. So I focus.
That's good.
That's what I do. It's relationship. People say relationship. Look, I'm not trying to go out, become best friends with you. What they're trying to say is I'm trying to build authentic trust with somebody, right? Like, by the time I'm done with this podcast, I would hope you would call me if you ever had a mortgage question.
100%.
I don't care if you do a loan with me or not, but I would be honored if you would call me to ask questions, right?
That's right.
Because that bigger pile is, I got a lot of real estate equity. I've done it, and I went from zero, and I can show you how to do it easy with a very, very simple plan. I love that Dave Ramsey has started saying, you can put less than 20% down, you don't want to pay that old pesky PMI, or he's even started talking about a 30-year loan. And then he's talked about real estate the other day. I just want to give him a high five because he's able to tell people it's not a one size fits all. And for those of you that it does fit, this might be right. And I'm hearing it now in people because he holds a lot of position with people.
Yes, he does.
And he's earned it. In bigger pile principle, people should listen to him. But he's also changing with the market. And people need to understand mortgages, real estate, whatever, it changes.
Yeah.
Right? So they want you to believe one thing. You should be seeking the truth to base the decision off on the other side.
That's it.
I don't want to. Tom Brokaw is not a real estate agent. I'm not going to listen to a stupid report that I just saw for 2 minutes walking through the kitchen. I'm going to call Shawn tomorrow morning.
That's right.
And say, hey, the Fed's raising rates. Did mortgage rates really go up? No. They want you to think that, right? So real estate right now, and I won't get into the weeds too much, but I'm super, super focusing on this right now with people, especially locally, and my friends and my family and my employees. Nick, if you buy a house for $500,000 and you put 5% down, how much is that? Do you know?
5%?
Yep. 5 times 5, 25,000, right?
That's right.
So Nashville is historic. By the way, Nashville year to date is 16.7%. Would you have thought you got 16.7% this year with all the bad news?
Not if you. That's all you got. Your only source was, and you didn't look at any statements or anything. That's
Crazy, right?
That's right.
So probably going to get 10% this year, maybe next year. We can't guarantee that, but why don't we use 5%, right? So 5% in a year is $25K appreciation.
Okay.
2 years, how much?
50.
You put how much in? 25.
That's right.
To make 50?
That's right.
You made 200%? Oh, by the way, after 2 years, that's tax-free, right?
That's right.
You don't pay any taxes up to $500,000. This is another thing most American households don't know. I surveyed it. Like 8 out of 10 don't know this. $500,000 as a primary residence, if you live there for 2 years, up to $500,000 you can walk away with and pay no taxes on. I'm in a 37% tax bracket. I pay a lot of taxes. I'm very proud to pay them, and
Amen.
I'm happy to.
That's right.
Because people fight for us, and they need me to do that. But the moral of the story is I would like to figure out a way to be a little better with that, right? I want to be a better steward of it.
That's right.
And some of these people, some of these jokers are not good stewards of what I'm giving them. So let me go distribute it through Second Harvest Food Bank or, mentoring into people's lives or building a platform that I can go and change the planet. And that's what I'm doing. And if people understand that you put $25,000 in or even less, you can put 3% down. It's not a bad thing to do a low down payment. And turn around and make 50, you doubled it in 2 years. Has your stock account, your 401k, your crypto, or any of that perform like that?
Yeah.
No way.
That's right.
Do you feel as safe about that? No. So my recipe, and I'll give everything away, was super simple. I moved every 2 years for over 10 years straight. I scraped the equity, what I call, you make equity when you sell the house, and put a low down payment on the next one. Because somebody taught me PMI could be removed without refinancing. I said, well, I'll just do 5% down, rent the money, because I can make more than what the bank's doing. Instead of giving the money to the bank and putting 50% down, letting them go lend your money.
That's right.
Beat the banks.
That's right.
So I was taught that early. Then when I found out the power of leverage, because somebody said, here's another part.
We just figured that out, by the way, what you just described. Not that long ago, yeah.
Yeah. I've been doing that for 10 years, 12 years. And the dollar cost averaging, by the way, that's just where you put a little bit of stocks in every month. I'm not a stock advisor. I was just told to buy stocks on the 15th, put money in there, and I said, yes, sir. And so if you go and you buy on the same month every single month and just put a little bit in there, what Warren Buffett says, that's the fastest way to become a millionaire. The rule of 72, you probably know this better than I do, but it says your money will double every 10 years if you get 7.5%. If you get, your money will double every 7.5 years if you get 10%.
That's right.
If you get 7.5, it'll take 10 years, right? So what Rob explained was if you have $100,000, what does that do to your mortgage payment? I was like, lowers about $400 for every $100,000.
Okay.
He goes, so $4,800 in a year. He goes, do you think that house is going to go up more than $4,800? I said, yes, sir. He goes, that's where your money's at. Just like later I had a land developer mentor me, and he said, your money's, when you build houses and subdivisions, money's in the dirt, what you bought it for. Not the house, not the margin, it's in the dirt. So what Rob taught me and Rick taught me was it's okay to put a low down payment down so you can leverage and go use that money elsewhere. So I'll owe $2 million on that farmhouse, and I'm very blessed that thing's probably going to appraise for $4 or $5 million. And I'll go back and put a line of credit on that sucker, so I have that available.
That's right.
Because here's what I did: I took my equity, paid off all the debt, invested the difference, or went and bought more real estate. Then what I would do is 2 years tax, kept on doing it, rinse and repeat. That's all people have to do. But what do people do? They get super emotional about the house, right? This is where we're at. They need to break that. If you want to beat inflation, if you want to retire and you want to build wealth and get off the sidelines and get into the game and possibly maybe catch a pass or in the Super Bowl, like some of these guys catch a pass in the Super Bowl, and I'm like, you haven't caught a pass for 5 games, and then you catch one in the Super Bowl. That may happen to you.
That's right.
Right? But if you stand on the sideline, what's guaranteed to happen?
Oh, yeah, you ain't catching nothing.
You're going to get gobbled up. That inflation is going to gobble your money up. That's why people who have paid off houses, unless they're ready to retire, I think are insane. And I'll even use the word stupid. That's just not smart. Unless you are ultimately so wealthy that you don't have to worry about money. You already have retirement fully funded, right? Whatever your goals are. Your house should have a mortgage on it. Because I can borrow right now at 5.5%, which, by the way, I'm only renting the money.
That's right.
Because in January, February, March, politics aside, the Democrats will start buying mortgage-backed securities again. They got out of the market in March. That's why rates went way up. Most people don't know that. They stopped $300 million plus per month. And so it brought the price down. They stopped doing that. January, February, March, they will start doing that again.
Yeah.
For midterm elections, along with fuel prices. I've seen this 7 times in 21 years, and guess what happens? Every 4 years, there's a cycle, right?
That's right.
Election. So rent the 5-6%. I don't care if it's 7%, right? If you can afford the payment, and then refinance it next year. But guess what you're going to have made by then? The equity.
That's right.
The loan pay down and the tax write-off, which as you make more money, for folks out there that maybe have a tax problem, you've got to buy real estate. And I can show you how to do that too.
That's right.
But going back to the folks that I'm really passionate about, that's all you got to do. Like if any of your employees decided, hey, I'm going to move every 2 years and follow that plan, I guarantee you they'll be a millionaire as long as they don't go and blow the money. And they follow the plan.
That's right.
It works. So that's what I'm teaching people right now, and that's what the news media doesn't want you to know. They want to focus on all the other stuff, and nobody wants to educate you. And then the other part of the equation is people don't want to stop and dedicate time to listen and educate.
It is funny how some people will not move, like will keep a house because, they with the pencil they watched a kid grow up on a wall, and they'll keep the house because that sacred cow, as the church would call them,
right?
To keep them from going. But no, everything you're saying. The moment that my wife and I figured that out, our whole lives changed. We made as much in deals like that as we for the first time last year than we could when we were working. You know what I mean? So it changed our life.
The best way that was ever explained to me, and one of those other like, whoa, now I get it, is if you were going to buy $500,000 of Amazon stock tomorrow, how much of your cash would you have to have?
I guess 500,000.
500,000, right? If you want to buy a $500,000 home, how much cash did we say you needed?
Maybe 5%.
$25K. That's right.
That's right.
Leverage. That's when that light bulb went off. Borrow other people's money. This is how our previous president was so wealthy. People are like, he owes billions. Yeah, he owes billions because he's using that money to go leverage and make even more.
That's right.
Right? And Americans have to understand, but you know where that was born? After the, what was it, Black Monday or whatever, when the stock market crashed back in the 40s or 50s or whatever?
Yep.
Well, there was no deed of trust. So banks would call your note due, right? And they'd say, hey, Nick, sorry, you missed a payment, or hey, our bank's not doing well. You have to pay your house off in full within 30 days, or else we're going to take it. So the American government created the deed of trust. So what they did was they said, hey, here's the rules. You can't just take people's houses. There's going to be certain things have to happen.
Yeah.
But our grandparents were born would pay that sucker off like everything else, so the bank can't take it.
That's right.
Right? Well, if I have 100,000,
it's a generational sin.
Exactly. Amen. That's where it occurred. So now we have to flip it. And how I'm flipping it right now is what I 2009, I'm going through the crisis. My mom gets breast cancer.
Oh, wow.
Living in Vermont with my grandmother. My grandmother's also dying because we moved down here. Her and my stepdad separated, and they ended up going back to Vermont. And I was like, I'm staying here. This is where my life is at. That was year 2000, which, by the way, was another, oh, great, now my mom's leaving me. I had her here. I was with her.
Right.
But the reason why I share that story was my grandma passed and left my mom a $450,000 house, a triplex, beautiful. It'd been in the family for 100 years. And I told her, I said, you need to put a mortgage on that sucker, right? Oh, you're just trying to sell me a loan. You're new and you're fresh. You're trying to, get one on the books. I was like, no, Mom. She's like, well, why would I want a payment? That's like $1,000, what you're suggesting. I said, because what would you do with $250,000 right now? You have no 401k. Like, we got to start building some retirement here. Let me teach you what I did. And in 2009, she got breast cancer.
Damn.
And that paid off house. Like, they didn't have enough money in cash. Luckily, we held it together.
Damn.
They didn't have to sell the home. And on top of the other clients that I saw that had put 50% down on a home and were in their 30s or 40s or even early 50s, were sitting at my desk and multiple times crying and begging me to please give me a cash out refi. He lost his job. He's got cancer. She's been laid off, and they needed cash. They were equity rich and cash poor, and that's America. Because guess what we're learning from? The government. Like, we don't need to be learning how to borrow and go into debt like the government. We should be learning how to borrow and go into debt healthy, right?
That's right.
So that right there, that's what has motivated me a lot. So I will never talk to a client in a consultation and not bring up the fact of, can I give you professional advice, and bring that point up? And people flip all the time. And they say, you know what, Shawn, I don't want to do 50% down. That makes a lot of sense. We're going to do 20% down. And then I show them other things. Like, did you grow up in a family where like owning a beach house was like for other people?
Yep.
Okay.
Sure did. Great middle class family, right?
Everything, like owning a home in my family was for other people. That will always be for other people, right? Oh, I love it when I'm sitting with people now and I'm like, you don't need to put 500 down. You need to put 20% down, because I already heard you talk about, St. Petersburg, and you wanted to get a place. Why don't you leave that? You got 10% down to buy a house at the beach, go down and visit. As long as you go there 14 days out of the year, the IRS says you can rent it out every other day of the year. Do short-term rental, get it to pay for itself. Now you got 2 homes going up in value.
That's right.
Boom, light bulb goes off. I just made a dream come true. People are sending me pictures while they're at the beach. This wouldn't have happened without you. It's awesome.
That's right.
But what did all those people do? What did they say to me? Will you help me?
That's right.
Well, that's my life. I spent 44 years saying, will you help me?
Well, that's all the shop he's going to give you today, folks, because if you want any more, all you got to do is call him.
That's right. Or watch the videos. I put it all out there. I don't talk about rates and programs a lot. Trying to be different. But yeah, call me, DM me. I at this point right now in my career, I still will make time to jump on a Zoom with you, try to help you, or jump on a phone call. And, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to just help out, even if it doesn't mean doing a mortgage loan, Well,
a true wealth of knowledge with a heart of gold. beautiful family. Like, you're the American dream, dude. Think about that. You are the American dream. I'm sitting here looking at it.
I try to be. So I thank you. I really do. I don't know why I have a hard time receiving that, because I don't want people to think that I've got it all figured out. Like, just had an argument with my wife a couple of days ago that we're still working through. Just screwed up at work the other day and made an employee cry.
It's a beautiful mess, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it really, really is. And I'm working every day. And if I screw up, and I know some of your listeners, all I ask is like, hey, give me forgiveness. And I will promise you I'll always go back and find out how I don't do that again.
That's right.
And I'll work on it. Right?
That's right. Well, hey, man, if they want to see me screw up, just hang around me a little longer.
Yeah, right? Yeah, for real.
Well, brother, your story's unbelievable. What you guys are doing with your charity projects and everything else, making time for family, making time for all your clients, making time for stuff like this. Again, your social media is way better than just about everybody else's out there that especially does what you do. And I love it. It's very unique. I can't tell folks enough. Folks, it's the Shawn Kaplan. His Instagram is absolute fire. YouTube's on the rise too as well. You can catch a lot of stuff there. TheShawnKaplan. Just like it sounds, Shawn Kaplan, and ShawnKaplan.com. Is there anything else that you want to leave anybody with? Anything else today?
I would say this. Just like the house, and just like saying I was a collective sum of people, I'd like to use the last thing I tell you to thank two groups of people, two people. One is my wife, for sure. I wouldn't be where I'm at without her. I don't know where I'd be. Might be living in Vegas with Brad. I love blackjack. Who knows? I'd be in trouble.
Yep.
And thank God that she had grace and mercy to love me through my rottenness over and over and over and over. And until I was able to learn and grow.
Yep.
And I think we need to give that grace to other people out there.
That's right.
Everybody's got a mess. Everybody's going through something. So I want to publicly say I love my wife, obviously, but I'll be eternally grateful, and that's why I want to serve her for the rest of my life. The second thing is my employees. I've got 9-year, 8-year, 7-year employees on my team. I think
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think especially in the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
But my employees allow me to come do something like this while doing the volume, help 400 families finance a home in a year. But my team, because they're my family, I spend I spend so much time with them in the office, and I couldn't do any of this. I'm extremely grateful for them.
That's awesome. And I would like to echo what you said about the wife too, because my third years were definitely. They probably lasted a long time for them, and her family as well for accepting me, and I was you had to really want to love me back in the day. Yeah, you had to really want, and I didn't make it easy for you. So I echo all that. Well, brother, man, this is everything I knew it was going to be. This enjoyed it. Fantastic, an amazing story. Literally, the American dream, the modern Renaissance man.
I'll take that. I'll receive that. I like that.
I think that's cool. I think that's real cool. Once again, folks, the local businessman, the husband, the father, the mortgage banker for 21 years, the Shawn Kaplan. Thanks for hanging with me today. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Hitstreak. Once again, I am your man, Nick Hyder. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. God bless.